Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary stories come to life. If you've subscribed for more stories, enjoy the ride now. The Smithsonian's new extraterrestrial artifacts wing closed to the public at 6 o'clock, but Dr. Samuel Webb had been granted after-hours access to continue his cataloging work on the recent acquisitions from the Kepler 442b expedition. The silence of the empty museum halls suited him perfectly. No tourists asking whether the alien pottery was, like, from actual aliens, no children pressing their faces against display cases, and no colleagues interrupting his meticulous documentation process with unnecessary social interaction. Sam had always preferred the company of ancient artifacts to living people, finding that pottery shards and stone tools were considerably more predictable than human conversation. They didn't expect witty responses or remember awkward comments from departmental meetings. They simply existed, waiting patiently to reveal their secrets to anyone methodical enough to ask the right questions. Which was why, when the ornate sarcophagus in the center of the gallery began emitting a low humming sound at precisely 11:47 p.m., Sam's first instinct was to check his equipment for malfunctions rather than run screaming from the building. The sarcophagus, officially designated as decorative burial container, origin unknown, estimated age 3,000 to 5,000 years, had been the centerpiece of the expedition's discoveries. Carved from what appeared to be crystallized starlight and decorated with symbols that hurt to look at directly, it had been assumed to be ceremonial rather than functional. The xenoarchaeology team had spent months trying to decode the inscriptions, with limited success beyond determining that they probably weren't a recipe for space casserole. Now, as Sam watched through his thick-rimmed glasses, those incomprehensible symbols began to glow with soft purple light. The humming sound intensified, harmonizing with itself in ways that suggested either advanced technology or a very sophisticated doorbell. Fascinating, Sam muttered, reaching for his tablet to record the phenomenon. Possible photoluminescent properties triggered by, what? Circadian rhythms. Electromagnetic fields. Proximity to someone wearing polyester blend clothing. The sarcophagus lid began to slide aside with the smooth precision of advanced engineering, revealing not the mummified remains of an ancient alien dignitary, but what appeared to be a woman in an extremely long nap. She sat up gracefully, stretching like someone awakening from the most refreshing sleep in recorded history, and fixed Sam with eyes that glowed like distant nebulae. At last, she said, her voice carrying an accent that sounded like it might be from somewhere in the general vicinity of Alpha Centauri, the prophesied one has come to awaken me from my eternal slumber. Sam blinked several times, then made a note on his tablet, subject appears to be alive. Possible cryogenic preservation. Note, ask about power source. The woman stepped out of the sarcophagus with fluid grace, revealing clothing that seemed to be cut from the fabric of space itself, midnight blue shot through with silver patterns that moved like constellations. She was tall, elegant, and possessed the kind of otherworldly beauty that made Sam wonder if his insurance covered encounters with supernatural beings. I am Lady Serafina Vexandra, vampire queen of the Crimson Nebula, empress of 1,000 worlds, she who walks between stars, she announced, then paused expectantly. Sam finished typing his notes and looked up. Oh, hello. I'm Dr. Samuel Webb. I'm a xenoarchaeologist. Are you feeling all right? You've been unconscious for quite some time. Serafina blinked, her dramatic introduction apparently not having produced the expected response. You are not trembling with awe at my magnificent presence. Should I be? I mean, you're certainly very impressive, but I deal with alien artifacts all the time. Though I have to say, this is the first one that's introduced itself. Sam adjusted his glasses and looked back at the sarcophagus. The preservation technology is remarkable. How did you maintain cellular integrity during extended stasis? Some sort of quantum field manipulation? The vampire queen stared at him with an expression of growing bewilderment. In 3 millennia of existence, she had never encountered someone who responded to her awakening by asking about cellular integrity. I have slept the sleep of ages, waiting for my destined consort to free me from my crystalline prison, she said, making another attempt at the dramatic approach. The prophecies foretold that one would come who could withstand my eternal embrace and share in my immortal reign across the cosmos. Prophecies, Sam repeated, making another note. Interesting. Precognitive abilities or sophisticated probability calculations. And when you say, eternal embrace, are we talking about some sort of symbiotic biological relationship? Because that would have fascinating implications for xenobiology research. Serafina moved closer, her movements flowing like liquid shadow. You do not fear me, mortal one. Well, you haven't done anything particularly frightening yet, Sam replied reasonably. You've been very polite, actually. Most people who wake up after being unconscious for millennia are rather disoriented and cranky. You seem remarkably well adjusted. I am a creature of the night, a predator who has conquered star systems and bent entire civilizations to my will, Serafina said, though her tone was becoming less commanding and more confused. I sustain myself on the life essence of lesser beings. Sam looked up from his tablet with genuine interest. Life essence? Like some sort of bioenergy extraction? That's incredible. How does the metabolic conversion work? Do you process cellular mitochondria directly, or is there an intermediate stage involving? I drink blood, Serafina interrupted. Oh. Sam paused. That's more straightforward than I expected. Though still fascinating from a nutritional standpoint. Do you require specific blood types? Are there compatibility issues with non-terrestrial species? Because human blood chemistry might not be optimal for your needs if you've been adapted to alien physiology. The ancient vampire queen found herself in the unprecedented position of having her fearsome nature analyzed like a dietary restriction. You are concerned about my nutritional requirements? Well, yes. If you've been in stasis for 3,000 years, you're probably severely dehydrated and suffering from various deficiencies. I have some energy bars in my desk drawer, though I'm not sure how compatible human food would be with your digestive system. Sam gestured toward his workspace. Would you like me to call someone? A doctor? The CDC? I'm not really sure what the protocol is for awakened alien royalty. Serafina stepped closer, studying this strange human who treated her emergence as a fascinating research opportunity rather than a terrifying supernatural encounter. You would care for my well-being. Of course. You're obviously far from home and probably dealing with some serious culture shock. Plus, you're an incredible archaeological discovery. Do you mind if I ask how old you are? For the documentation. I have walked the void between worlds for over 3,000 years, Serafina said, then added hopefully, does this inspire appropriate reverence and trembling? It inspires a lot of questions about longevity research and interstellar travel, Sam replied, typing enthusiastically. 3,000 years of accumulated knowledge must be incredible. Have you witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations? Observed stellar formation patterns? The anthropological data you could provide would revolutionize our understanding of galactic development. For the first time in millennia, Serafina found herself speechless. She had expected fear, worship, or at least some dramatic swooning. Instead, she had found a human who wanted to interview her for scientific purposes and was worried about her hydration levels. You are not like other mortals, she said finally. I get that a lot, Sam admitted. Most people find archaeology boring. But you're living archaeology, which is infinitely more interesting than pottery shards, though I do love pottery shards. He paused, suddenly looking concerned. Oh, I should probably mention, I'm not sure what the legal status of awakened alien royalty is in terms of immigration law. Do you have documentation? Because the paperwork for this is going to be absolutely nightmarish. Serafina stared at him, then began to laugh, a sound like silver bells echoing across the cosmic void. You are concerned about paperwork? Have you ever dealt with federal bureaucracy? It's more terrifying than any vampire queen, trust me. By morning, Sam had managed to explain the concept of coffee to a 3,000-year-old alien vampire queen, though Serafina remained convinced that the cafeteria vending machine was some sort of primitive food synthesizer operated by coin-based ritual sacrifice. She had adapted to 21st century Earth with surprising flexibility, except for her persistent attempts to declare herself ruler of various government departments. "I don't think you can just walk into the Department of Agriculture and announce yourself as secretary," Sam explained patiently as they sat in his cluttered office, surrounded by carefully labeled boxes of alien pottery fragments. "There's an entire electoral process. Campaigns, debates, background checks." Serafina waved dismissively, her gesture causing several coffee cups to rattle on nearby shelves. "Such bureaucratic nonsense did not exist in my time. If you possessed the power to rule, you ruled. It was refreshingly simple." "Yes, but we've moved past the might makes right approach to governance. Mostly." Sam adjusted his glasses and returned to his documentation. "Though I have to admit, your biotechnological symbiosis is incredible. You're essentially a living ecosystem." Over the past few hours, Serafina had explained that her vampiric nature was actually the result of an ancient alien symbiote that granted immortality, enhanced physical capabilities, and the need to periodically consume bioenergy from other sentient beings. The process was more akin to an energy transfusion than the crude blood drinking of terrestrial vampire legends. "The Crimson Symbiont chose me when I was barely past my first century," she said, unconsciously touching a spot on her throat where Sam could see the faint outline of what looked like living circuitry beneath her skin. "It offered eternal life and the power to protect my people from the void predators that stalked our home system." "Void predators?" Sam looked up from his notes with obvious interest. "Creatures of pure hunger that devoured entire planets. My world was dying, my people scattered across refugee fleets." Serafina's expression grew distant. "The symbiont made me strong enough to hunt the predators, to reclaim our territory, to build an empire that could stand against the darkness between stars." Sam found himself leaning forward, captivated by her story. "That's incredible. You single-handedly saved your entire civilization." "Eventually, yes. Though it took several centuries and the conquest of numerous star systems to build sufficient defenses." She paused, studying his fascinated expression. "You do not judge me for the conquests." "Judge you? You were protecting refugees and fighting cosmic horrors. That sounds more like heroism than villainy." Sam set down his tablet. "Though I imagine the loneliness must have been terrible. Watching everyone you saved grow old and die while you remained unchanged." The observation struck Serafina like a physical blow. In 3 millennia, no one had considered the emotional cost of her immortal guardianship. Yes. The loneliness became unbearable. That is why I entered the stasis chamber, to sleep until the prophecies could be fulfilled. Prophecies about finding a destined consort. Serafina nodded, though she looked slightly embarrassed. "The court seers spoke of one who would share my eternal vigil, who could withstand the symbiont's embrace and become my equal in power and purpose. They said I would find him when hope seemed lost." Sam considered this. "And you think I'm this prophesied person? You awakened me. You do not fear my nature. You show kindness without expecting reward." Serafina's voice grew soft. "And you make me laugh, which no one has done in centuries." Before Sam could respond to this unexpected confession, the museum's main entrance erupted in a shower of crystalline debris. Through the settling dust strode a figure in midnight armor that seemed to absorb light itself, tall, imposing, and radiating the kind of menace that made Sam's survival instincts finally kick in. "My lady," the newcomer said, his voice carrying the cold authority of deep space, "you have been absent from the Crimson Throne for over 2 millennia. The court has declared you dead and named a successor." Serafina rose from her chair with fluid grace, her demeanor shifting instantly from conversational companion to regal authority. "Commander Thane. I did not expect to see you again. Nor I you, my lady. But here we both are." Thane's helmeted gaze shifted to Sam, who was still trying to process the fact that someone had just demolished the museum's reinforced entrance like it was made of paper. "And this is the mortal who awakened you?" "Dr. Samuel Webb," Sam said, standing up and extending his hand in what was probably the most inadequate greeting gesture in galactic history. "I'm a xenoarchaeologist. Sorry about your queen being in our museum. Administrative error, I think." Thane stared at the offered handshake as if Sam had just tried to present him with a live grenade. "My lady, this creature is clearly unworthy of your attention. Shall I dispose of it?" "You shall not," Seraphina said, her voice carrying enough authority to make the air itself seem heavier. "Dr. Webb is under my protection. My lady, the Court of Shadows has sent assassins. They believe you dead, and they intend to ensure you remain so. This human will be collateral damage in their mission." Sam raised his hand tentatively. "Excuse me, but when you say assassins, are we talking about a few individuals or more of a small army situation? Because I should probably cancel my afternoon meetings either way." Both aliens turned to stare at him. Seraphina's expression was fondly exasperated, while Thane's was barely concealed horror. "Dar. Webb," Seraphina said gently, "the shadow assassins are among the most feared killers in the galaxy. Each one is capable of eliminating entire planetary defense forces." "Ah." Sam nodded thoughtfully. "How many are coming?" "Intelligence suggests a full hunting pack," Thane replied. 12 assassins, equipped with void weapons and quantum armor. They will arrive within the hour." Sam looked around his cluttered office, taking in the pottery fragments, research notes, and coffee-stained furniture. "Well, this is probably going to void my security deposit." He turned to Seraphina. "I don't suppose there's anywhere safe we could go? Preferably somewhere with good Wi-Fi and adequate climate control." Seraphina found herself torn between admiration for his calm acceptance of mortal peril and concern for his apparent lack of survival instincts. "Sam, these beings will kill you simply for being near me. You should flee while you still can." "Flee?" Sam looked genuinely puzzled. "But you need help. And besides, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me since I discovered those ceramic fragments with the non-Euclidean geometric patterns. I'm not missing this." Thane removed his helmet, revealing features that were sharp and angular, with the same otherworldly beauty as Seraphina but considerably more intimidating. "My lady, this human is either incredibly brave or fatally stupid." "Both, I suspect," Seraphina said, though her tone was affectionate rather than critical. "Sam, you cannot fight shadow assassins with archaeological tools and caffeine." "Maybe not," Sam agreed, "but I can help in other ways. I know this building better than anyone, I have access to communication systems, and I've seen every action movie ever made. That has to count for something." Despite everything, the impending arrival of galactic assassins, the collapse of her carefully planned awakening, the complete upheaval of her expectations about her destined consort. Seraphina found herself smiling. "You would stand beside me against impossible odds?" Sam adjusted his glasses and looked at her seriously. "You've spent 3,000 years protecting people. The least I can do is help you protect yourself." In that moment, with cosmic killers approaching and her former life in ruins, Seraphina realized that the prophecies might have been more accurate than she'd dared to hope. The first shadow assassin materialized in the museum's Egyptian wing at 2:47 p.m., stepping out of what appeared to be a fold in reality itself. Sam watched through the security camera feeds from his office as the figure moved through the displays like liquid darkness, leaving no footprints but somehow making every artifact in its vicinity seem less substantial, as if its mere presence was draining the life from ancient stone and metal. "They're definitely not here for the gift shop," Sam observed, switching between camera angles on his laptop. "That one just walked through a reinforced glass case without breaking it. How is that physically possible?" Seraphina stood at the window, her enhanced senses tracking movements that the cameras couldn't detect. Shadow assassins exist partially outside normal spacetime. They can phase through solid matter at will, strike from impossible angles, and their weapons can cut through molecular bonds themselves. Fascinating, Sam said, making notes even as he watched humanity's most secure museum being infiltrated by beings that violated several laws of physics. Though terrifying. Mostly terrifying. Commander Thane had positioned himself at the office door, his armor's defensive systems humming with barely contained energy. "My lady, we should retreat to the Crimson Fleet. These assassins cannot follow us into hyperspace." "No." Serafina's voice was quiet but absolute. "I will not run again. I have spent too many centuries fleeing from the consequences of my choices." Sam looked up from his surveillance feeds. "What consequences?" "You saved your people and built an empire." "That sounds like a success story to me." "I saved my people by becoming something they feared," Serafina replied, her reflection in the window looking like a ghost of herself. "The symbiont made me powerful, but it also made me, other. Different. The very people I protected began to see me as a monster wearing their queen's face." "So you went into voluntary exile." Sam's academic mind began piecing together the psychological implications. "You chose isolation rather than rule through fear." "I chose to sleep until someone could love the monster as well as the queen." Serafina turned from the window, and Sam saw centuries of loneliness in her expression. "The prophecy spoke of one who would see my true nature and choose to stay." Before Sam could respond, the office lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light that made Serafina's eyes glow like stars. Through the walls came the sound of something moving that shouldn't exist, footsteps that echoed in dimensions human ears weren't designed to perceive. "They're in the building," Thane reported, his weapons systems activating with sounds like distant thunder. 12 signatures, spread across all floors. "They're hunting in pack formation." Sam stood up, surprised to discover that his hands weren't shaking despite the fact that interdimensional assassins were currently searching for him with intent to commit murder. "Right. I've set the building's automated systems to seal all exterior exits and activate the fire suppression system. That should slow them down and limit visibility." "You would trap yourself inside with them?" Serafina asked. "I would level the playing field," Sam corrected. "They might be able to phase through walls, but they still need to navigate by sight. And I know every corridor, every hidden passage, every maintenance tunnel in this place." The first shadow assassin appeared in the doorway like a nightmare-given form, tall, cloaked in darkness that seemed to move independently of any light source, wielding a weapon that looked like crystallized void. It raised its blade toward Sam, but before it could strike, Serafina moved. The transformation was instantaneous and breathtaking. The polite, slightly confused alien queen disappeared, replaced by something that belonged in the space between stars. Shadow flowed around her like living armor, gravity bent to her will, and when she struck the assassin, the impact sent shockwaves through dimensions Sam couldn't see but definitely felt. "Stay behind me," she commanded, her voice now carrying harmonics that made reality itself seem more solid. "Actually," Sam said, pulling up building schematics on his tablet, "I think we should head for the geological specimens vault. It's 3 floors down, surrounded by lead-lined walls, and has only one entrance. We can bottleneck them." Thane nodded approvingly. "Sound tactical thinking. My lady, the human shows strategic aptitude." As they fought their way through corridors filled with phasing assassins and impossible shadows, Sam witnessed the true extent of Serafina's power. She moved like violence made elegant, turning the museum into a 3-dimensional battlefield where walls became weapons and gravity was merely a suggestion. But between the moments of cosmic terror, he also saw something else, the careful way she shielded him from harm, the precise control that ensured no innocent artifacts were damaged, the exhaustion that flickered across her features when she thought no one was looking. "How long can you maintain this level of power output?" he asked during a brief respite in a maintenance corridor. "Long enough," she replied, though her breathing was elevated. "That's not an answer. That's medical professional evasion." Sam studied her with the same intensity he brought to analyzing pottery fragments. The symbiont requires bioenergy to function at peak capacity. How long since your last feeding? Serafina's pause was telling. Several days before I entered stasis. Several days 3,000 years ago, Sam translated. You're running on empty. Before she could protest, another wave of assassins found them. This time, Sam saw her falter, just for a moment, but enough for one of the shadow blades to slip past her defenses. The weapon left a cut across her arm that glowed with unnatural light, and Serafina hissed in pain. My lady. Thane moved to support her, but she waved him off. I'm fine. Just a scratch. That's not a scratch, Sam said, examining the wound with scientific detachment. That's some sort of energy disruption pattern. The weapon is interfering with your symbiont's cellular repair functions. Serafina stared at him. How could you possibly know that? Because you heal instantly from everything else, but this isn't healing. Which means the shadow weapons are specifically designed to counter your abilities. Sam looked between her and Thane. They're not just here to kill you. They're here to make sure you stay dead. The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. These weren't just assassins, they were executioners, equipped with weapons specifically crafted to end the existence of beings like Serafina permanently. My lady, Thane said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider retreat. No. Serafina straightened, despite the unhealing wound on her arm. I am tired of running. Tired of sleeping. Tired of letting fear dictate my existence. Sam found himself moving closer to her, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. Then don't run. But don't fight alone, either. Sam, you cannot help me in this. You are mortal, fragile. I'm also right here, he interrupted gently. And I'm choosing to stay. In the red emergency lighting, with cosmic assassins hunting them through the halls of human history, Serafina looked at this strange, brave, utterly impossible human who had turned her carefully planned destiny completely upside down. The prophecy had spoken of a destined consort, but it had never mentioned that he would be someone who saw her fear and chose kindness, who witnessed her power and remained unafraid, who looked at 3,000 years of loneliness and offered companionship without asking for anything in return. If you stay, she said softly, if you truly choose this path, there is no going back. I can offer you eternity, but I cannot offer you mortality. Sam adjusted his glasses, a gesture that had become endearing rather than nervous. Are you asking me to marry you in the middle of a life-or-death battle with interdimensional assassins? Despite everything, the pain, the fear, the weight of millennia pressing down on her, Serafina laughed. I suppose I am. Well, Sam said, smiling at the ancient queen who had turned his quiet academic life into something resembling an action movie, that's definitely the most memorable proposal in recorded history. From somewhere in the darkness beyond their hiding place came the sound of approaching footsteps that existed in too many dimensions simultaneously. The final confrontation was coming, and Sam realized that his answer might determine not just his own fate, but the future of the woman who had waited 3,000 years to find someone who would choose to stay. The geological specimens vault had become an impromptu throne room, with ancient meteor fragments and crystallized minerals serving as witnesses to what might be either a wedding ceremony or a last stand. Sam had managed to jury-rig the museum's PA system to play something that sounded vaguely like processional music, though the effect was somewhat undermined by the intermittent sounds of shadow assassins testing the lead-lined walls for weaknesses. I have to ask, Sam said as Serafina prepared for what appeared to be an ancient bonding ritual involving glowing symbols and words in a language that predated human civilization, what exactly does eternal partnership with a vampire queen entail? Because I should probably update my emergency contacts. Serafina paused in her incantations, which were making the air itself shimmer with otherworldly energy. You are concerned about administrative details. I'm concerned about informed consent, Sam corrected. If I'm going to spend eternity with you, I want to know what I'm agreeing to. Will I need to drink blood? Develop an aversion to garlic? Start sleeping in coffins. The symbiont will alter your physiology gradually, Serafina explained patiently, even as Commander Thane monitored the approach of beings that existed partially outside normal spacetime. You will gain enhanced strength, immortality, and the ability to sustain yourself on bioenergy rather than conventional nutrition. You will also develop certain, perceptual enhancements. Such as, you will be able to see across dimensional barriers, sense the life force of other beings, and perceive the flow of time as a navigable dimension rather than a linear constraint. Sam considered this. That sounds incredibly useful for archaeological research. Think of the temporal excavation possibilities. My lady, Thane interrupted urgently, they've breached the outer defenses. We have perhaps 10 minutes before they reach us. Serafina nodded, then turned back to Sam with an expression that combined ancient authority with surprisingly modern vulnerability. Sam, I need you to understand what you would be choosing. Immortality is not just extended life, it is watching civilizations rise and fall, seeing everyone you care about age and die while you remain unchanged. It is the weight of endless memory and the responsibility of power that can reshape worlds. It's also the chance to explore the universe with someone I'm falling in love with, Sam replied simply. And the opportunity to help you find a purpose beyond conquest and survival. The confession hung in the air between them, more powerful than any ancient magic or alien technology. Serafina stared at him, 3 millennia of carefully constructed emotional defenses crumbling in the face of genuine affection offered without expectation or agenda. You, love me? I love your curiosity about coffee vending machines. I love how you try to declare yourself ruler of government departments. I love that you've spent 3,000 years protecting people even when they feared you for it. Sam stepped closer, apparently unaware that professing love. The geological specimens vault had become an impromptu throne room, with ancient meteor fragments and crystallized minerals serving as witnesses to what might be either a wedding ceremony or a last stand. Sam had managed to jury-rig the museum's PA system to play something that sounded vaguely like processional music, though the effect was somewhat undermined by the intermittent sounds of shadow assassins testing the lead-lined walls for weaknesses. I have to ask, Sam said as Serafina prepared for what appeared to be an ancient bonding ritual involving glowing symbols and words in a language that predated human civilization, what exactly does eternal partnership with a vampire queen entail? Because I should probably update my emergency contacts. Serafina paused in her incantations, which were making the air itself shimmer with otherworldly energy. You are concerned about administrative details. I'm concerned about informed consent, Sam corrected. If I'm going to spend eternity with you, I want to know what I'm agreeing to. Will I need to drink blood? Develop an aversion to garlic? Start sleeping in coffins? The symbiont will alter your physiology gradually, Serafina explained patiently, even as Commander Thane monitored the approach of beings that existed partially outside normal spacetime. You will gain enhanced strength, immortality, and the ability to sustain yourself on bioenergy rather than conventional nutrition. You will also develop certain, perceptual enhancements. Such as, you will be able to see across dimensional barriers, sense the life force of other beings, and perceive the flow of time as a navigable dimension rather than a linear constraint. Sam considered this. That sounds incredibly useful for archaeological research. Think of the temporal excavation possibilities. My lady, Thane interrupted urgently, they've breached the outer defenses. We have perhaps 10 minutes before they reach us. Serafina nodded, then turned back to Sam with an expression that combined ancient authority with surprisingly modern vulnerability. Sam, I need you to understand what you would be choosing. Immortality is not just extended life, it is watching civilizations rise and fall, seeing everyone you care about age and die while you remain unchanged. It is the weight of endless memory and the responsibility of power that can reshape worlds. It's also the chance to explore the universe with someone I'm falling in love with, Sam replied simply. And the opportunity to help you find a purpose beyond conquest and survival. The confession hung in the air between them, more powerful than any ancient magic or alien technology. Serafina stared at him, 3 millennia of carefully constructed emotional defenses crumbling in the face of genuine affection offered without expectation or agenda. You love me. I love your curiosity about coffee vending machines. I love how you try to declare yourself ruler of government departments. I love that you've spent 3,000 years protecting people even when they feared you for it. Sam stepped closer, apparently unaware that professing love to an alien vampire queen while surrounded by interdimensional assassins was not typically considered romantic. I love that you make me want to be braver than I actually am. Serafina felt something inside her chest, something that had been frozen for centuries, begin to thaw. The prophecy spoke of a destined consort, but I never imagined that he'd be a socially awkward archaeologist with a caffeine addiction and questionable fashion sense. That he would choose me for who I am, not what I could offer him. Before Sam could respond, the vault door exploded inward in a shower of twisted metal and impossible geometry. The remaining shadow assassins poured through the breach like living nightmares, their void weapons crackling with energy designed to permanently end immortal existence. My lady. Thane moved to intercept them, but there were too many, and they flowed around his defenses like water around stone. Serafina raised her hands, shadow and starlight swirling around her as she prepared to make her final stand. But before she could strike, Sam stepped forward. Wait, he said, addressing the lead assassin with the same tone he might use to correct a student's thesis. Before you kill us, I have a question. The shadow assassin paused, apparently as confused by this approach as everyone else seemed to be when dealing with Sam's unconventional responses to crisis situations. You're here to ensure Serafina stays dead because the court declared her deceased and named a successor, Sam continued, pulling out his tablet as if he were conducting an interview. But what if she abdicated officially? Renounced her claim to the throne and chose exile instead of rule? Sam, Serafina said quietly, what are you doing? Saving your life and solving a political crisis simultaneously, he replied, then turned back to the assassins. She never wanted to be empress anyway. She wanted to be an explorer. A researcher. Someone who discovers rather than conquers. The lead assassin tilted its head, considering this unexpected development. When it spoke, its voice was like wine through distant catacombs. The court seeks certainty of her death, not political resolution. But death is such a waste, Sam said reasonably. 3,000 years of accumulated knowledge, gone forever. Think of the scientific advancement, the cultural exchange, the potential for discovery that would be lost. Wouldn't exile serve your purposes just as well? You offer to leave our space forever, the assassin asked Serafina directly. I offer to explore yours, she replied, understanding flooding her expression. To map uncharted sectors, catalog unknown species, study phenomena that no one has bothered to investigate because they were too busy conquering territory. Sam nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Instead of ruling an empire, you could be mapping the universe. Instead of commanding armies, you could be leading scientific expeditions. It's the perfect solution. The shadow assassins conferred among themselves in harmonics that existed outside human hearing range. Finally, their leader spoke again. The court will accept exile in exchange for formal abdication. But the human comes with you, no connections to your former empire can remain. That was already the plan, Sam said cheerfully. Though I should probably give notice at the university. 2 weeks is considered professional courtesy.